For most of human history, cats were strangers. Not enemies, not companions, just completely irrelevant. If you were a human living 10,000 years ago, a cat was simply another small predator lurking at the edges of the world. You didn't need it. You didn't want it. You probably never thought about it at all. And yet somehow cats ended up inside our homes, sleeping on our pillows, knocking things off our shelves, and staring at us with complete indifference while we beg for their attention. There are more than 600 million domestic cats on Earth today. They have their own Instagram accounts, people build furniture specifically for them, entire corners of the internet exist solely because of cat videos. But here is the part nobody talks about. Humans never actually domesticated cats. Not really. Cats domesticated themselves. And they did it entirely for selfish reasons. To understand how this happened, you have to go back to one of the biggest accidents in human history: farming. Around 10,000 years ago in the Middle East, humans figured out they could grow their own food instead of constantly chasing it. This sounds like pure progress, but it created an immediate problem nobody anticipated. When you grow grain, you have to store it. And when you store grain, rodents appear. Mice and rats by the thousands pouring into human settlements, eating through winter supplies, destroying in days what took months to grow. For early farmers, a rodent infestation wasn't an inconvenience. It was a potential death sentence. And somewhere just outside those grain stores, wildcats noticed something extraordinary. An unlimited supply of prey, all concentrated in one place, completely predictable, not going anywhere. To a wildcat, a human farming settlement was basically an all-you-can-eat buffet that never closed. So they moved closer. Now here is the critical difference between cats and every other domesticated animal. Dogs were captured and bred. Horses were broken and trained. Sheep were herded and contained. But nobody rounded up wildcats and decided to tame them. Nobody had a plan. The cats just showed up. The bold ones crept toward the grain stores. The aggressive ones got chased away or killed. The terrified ones stayed in the wilderness and went hungry. But the ones that were calm enough to tolerate humans nearby, those cats ate constantly. They survived winter. They raised more kittens. And those kittens inherited that same comfort around humans. Generation after generation, without any human intention whatsoever, wildcats near human settlements were slowly selecting themselves for one specific trait: tolerance. Not loyalty, not affection, not love, just the ability to be near humans without panicking. This is why cats feel so fundamentally different from dogs even today. Dogs were shaped over tens of thousands of years to want human approval. Cats were shaped to simply not mind human presence. There is a significant difference. The species that made this leap was Felis silvestris libica, a small wildcat still found in parts of Africa and the Middle East today. Every house cat on Earth, every Persian, every Maine Coon, every cat currently knocking your water glass off the counter descends from that one wildcat species. And genetically, domestic cats are remarkably close to their wild ancestors. Dogs diverged from wolves dramatically over thousands of years of intentional breeding. Cats barely changed at all. They are, in biological terms, barely domesticated. Scientists sometimes describe cats as self-domesticated, which sounds like a compliment but is really just a polite way of saying cats decided what terms worked for them and then offered humans a deal. And humans accepted immediately, because the deal was genuinely good. A cat near your grain store meant fewer rodents. Fewer rodents meant more food survived winter. More food surviving winter meant more people survived. In purely practical terms, tolerating cats was one of the best decisions early farmers ever made, even though they never actually made it consciously. It just happened. The Egyptians understood this better than anyone. By around 4,000 years ago, cats had become deeply woven into Egyptian society. But here is what most people get wrong about Egyptian cat worship. They didn't revere cats because they were cute or mysterious. They revered them because they were watching cats save lives. Cats killed cobras. Cats killed the rodents that destroyed grain supplies that fed entire cities. The goddess Bastet, depicted with a cat's head, was a goddess of home, fertility, and protection, because that is exactly what cats provided. The penalty for killing a cat in ancient Egypt was death. Cats had negotiated themselves from wild predators to legally protected divine beings in a few thousand years, without anyone training them to do it. But something did happen along the way that nobody fully planned. Some cats became genuinely fond of humans. Not all of them, not even most of them, but enough. Because the cats that sought out human contact, that purred, that kneaded, that curled against sleeping humans at night, those cats got fed better. They got protected. They got carried to new settlements instead of left behind. Affection turned out to be a survival strategy, so cats evolved just enough warmth to keep humans invested, just enough neediness to seem endearing, just enough independence to remain interesting. It was, from an evolutionary standpoint, a masterpiece of manipulation, and humans fell for it completely. Today, domestic cats retain almost everything that made wild cats dangerous. The same predatory instincts, the same territorial behavior, the same deeply indifferent relationship with authority. Your cat does not see you as a leader the way a dog does. Research suggests cats interact with humans the way they would interact with other cats, as equals at best, as inconvenient roommates at worst. When your cat brings you a dead bird, it is not a gift. It is a cat deciding you are too incompetent to hunt and attempting to correct the situation. When your cat needs your lap, it is using a behavior kittens use on their mothers. Somewhere in your cat's brain, you got filed under a strange category somewhere between parent and territory. When your cat ignores you for hours, and then suddenly needs to sit directly on your face at 3 a.m., that is simply a cat operating on its own schedule and treating your presence as infrastructure. And yet, despite all of this, despite the indifference, the scratched furniture, the 3 a.m. chaos, the complete refusal to come when called, humans are utterly devoted to cats. There are people who have restructured entire apartments for cats. People who turn down travel because their cat prefers routine. People who whisper apologies to cats for being 5 minutes late with breakfast. Somewhere along the way, this transaction stopped being about rodent control. Archaeologists found evidence in Cyprus from around 9,500 years ago of a human buried carefully alongside a cat. Not eaten, not sacrificed, buried together, as a companion. Think about that for a second. Before the pyramids, before written language, before metal tools, a human being died, and someone who loved them decided that cat should come too. That is not pest management anymore. That is something else entirely. Cats came to us for the mice. They stayed for reasons neither species fully understands. They never learned to need us the way dogs did. They never lost their wildness the way horses did. They simply decided, generation after generation, that humans were worth tolerating. And somewhere between the grain stores and the Instagram accounts, tolerating became something that looks a lot like love. On their terms, of course. Always on their terms. Tonight, your cat is probably going to ignore you for 3 hours, stare at a wall for no reason, and then fall asleep on you like you are the only safe place in the world. That started 10,000 years ago in a field full of mice. But now you know.